Hello, everybody. I'm Matthew Meyer, and I'm going to read a short story. Well, it's a flash fiction story I had published a few years ago called The Initiation. It was published in the Blood Bond magazine issue in January 2019, and I don't even think this magazine is even in print anymore. So that's why I'm going to read you the story real quick. The Initiation. I saw my family drink the red liquid inside the glittering gold goblet. One by one, I could tell it was already doing its job. My sister's bloodshot eyes bugged out, revealing an intense shot of excitement. My father's face grew sickly pale, but he was feeling better than he ever did as a living human. When my mother and younger brother took a sip, they let out howls of joy, malicious sounds of laughter. My family was gone, and all that was left was me. The goblet felt lighter than it looked, even with the red shiny liquid nestled inside. I stared down into it, the blood of the vampire elder. It was the gasoline that fueled a mortal for eternity. Once you drank even a sip, there was no turning back. The hallway where we had met the vampire elder and his disciples was dimly lit by torches that were lining the stone walls. Even in the dim lime green glow, I could make out my silhouette in the goblet. I could see the reflection's look of uncertainty. "I don't think I want to do this," I said. My voice came out in a hoarse whisper. I had doubts if anyone heard me. My mother still had that excited look on her face. It was a look that was telling me I wouldn't regret a thing, but I knew I would. I enjoyed being immortal. I missed my home and my friends back in the mortal realm. The only reason we were all there was because my parents were easily manipulated. It's not that hard to convince a human that they have an opportunity to become invincible and fly and do all the fun stuff you see in the movies. My siblings, of course, were on board with it. If they could fly, they'd make any sacrifice that came with it. I must be the logical one in the group or something. My father always said I had a very inquisitive mindset. I could see through people and their ways of doing things. He nicknamed me Weasel because weasels are sneaky creatures. I don't sneak with my body, I sneak with my mind. The vampire elder shambled up to me, his feet swiftly maneuvering over the floor, making swishing noises. He had a large black hooded cloak draped over his emaciated body. The only skin that was showing was the gray and deteriorating slab on his skull. The closer he got, I could see there were patches of hair growing on the sides of his cheeks. The top of his head was bald except for a few gray hairs that stuck out like he had touched an electrical current. Deep in the crevices of his face, there were two glowing red eyes that spelled doom for any mortal that came across him. The eyes burned into mine. They flickered and danced like fire. I could immediately tell what he was trying to do. He was trying to hypnotize me. He was going to make me transform into his kind against my will. The concept of democracy was a forbidden thought in this world. Only a dictatorship prevailed. Quickly I tore my eyes away from him and dropped the goblet. The elder's blood spilled onto the plushy velvet carpeting, automatically soaking itself into it. I ran down the seemingly endless hallway, not looking back. I didn't want to see if the vampires were following me, and I didn't want to take a second look at my family. They were one of them now, and I was all alone. My heart was pounding furiously. My legs felt like rubber. I wanted to run faster, but the apprehension had consumed me, causing my body to stiffen up like air on wet clay. The hallway was becoming darker also. My vision was slowly fading away, and pretty soon I found myself in complete darkness. I was now really alone. I slowed my pace to a near standstill. I held my hands out like a blind person, feeling my way through the dark. There was literally no escape if you couldn't see. The vampires had trapped us down there. We were doomed from the start. The more I thought about it, the more it seemed like our destiny. It was our destiny to become another blood-sucking, unholy creature of the night. I stopped completely, bending over in attempts to catch my breath. My heart felt like it was going to explode at any moment. What was really weak, however, was my mindset. It was buckling. The strong-minded person that I was, that my parents raised me to become, was starting to falter. That was the problem with being a human. No matter how strong you think you are, there's always a weak spot, and I never really considered mine until now. They would be coming for me eventually. They knew there was nowhere for me to go now. It was the darkness that drew out my weak spot. Its pitch black blanket had smothered me and made me submit. My human side was screaming to not give up, that there was still hope, but it too was being smothered by my logical side. Logically, there was nowhere to go, and the only choice was to go back and become the thing that would never make me weak again. They were waiting for me when I returned. My brother and sister were jumping up and down, shouting, "Hooray!" My parents had pleased looks on their faces, and my father patted me on the back and rubbed my shoulders. I caught the looks on the vampire disciples, which only consisted of crooked half smiles. Slowly shambling back over to me was the vampire elder. He didn't have a pleased expression on his face. or a look of excitement. It was still the same wicked and malicious countenance that he always had. He was carrying the goblet filled moral of his blood. He presented it to me, and I reluctantly took it. I took a glance at my parents, who nodded their heads in approval. Without thinking about it again, I took a large gulp of the blood. The sweet iron taste made me almost gag, but as it traveled down my throat, I instantly felt a surge of energy. It was like taking an energy drink, but with 100 times the amount of sugar. I could feel my muscles tightening and growing solid, and my teeth, well, let's just say they were keeping the vampire tradition going. Well, that's all for the initiation, and I hope you liked it, and I'll see you guys later.